When my fiance and I moved to this small town 3 weeks ago, I thought I was stepping into a bright new chapter. I was proud of him, proud of his new job, proud of the sacrifices I'd made to help build our future together. But then the stares, the sidelong comments, and the way he disappeared into the crowd started pricking at me like sharp little thorns. I thought I was building a home. But now I'm not sure if I'm living with someone who loves me or with someone who's hiding me like a shameful secret. I used to believe love could be a guiding light, leading us through unfamiliar places, unknown roads, and towns that didn't yet exist on the map of our memories. When my fiance got a new job in a small town 2 hours from where we used to live, I didn't hesitate. I truly believed that anywhere could be home, as long as he was there with me. I eagerly packed up every belonging, rearranged everything in our old apartment like I was preparing for a happy adventure. He's 44, white, Canadian, calm, polite, and responsible. I loved his meticulous nature, and he appreciated my sensitivity and attention to detail. During his job interview process, I was practically an unpaid assistant, picking out his clothes, prepping his resume, trimming his beard, even sharing tips I'd picked up from my own years working in offices. When he got the job, we hugged tightly, and he said, "This is the beginning for us." And I believed that. Even though I'm Black and Caribbean, and I knew small rural towns weren't always welcoming to people who looked like me, I thought love and mutual support could get us through anything. My family had concerns. My mom was hesitant, and my son's father was outright against it. But I reassured them. This was the right choice for me and for my son's future. I prepared the transfer papers for school, checked custody arrangements, and scheduled visitations so my son wouldn't be affected. Everything was in place. I was the one who brought our family here because I trusted him and I believed in the life we were building. At first, we were inseparable. The town was unfamiliar, finding our way around, locating the market, schools. Everything was new, but I didn't feel alone. He went to work in the mornings. I took care of the house, our son, and made dinner. Our evenings were spent watching movies, planning how to decorate our new home, or discussing our next vacation. Everything seemed perfect, or at least peaceful enough for me not to ask questions. But then came the looks. They started appearing slowly, like cracks under the surface of fresh paint. And worse than the stranger's stares was the way I wasn't sure he looked at me the same anymore. I started noticing changes in the smallest things. First, the way people looked at me. Not curious glances, but inspecting, judging, tinged with something accusatory. Once, while I was picking up my son from school, a woman nearly hit a lamppost because she stared at me for too long. Another time, an old man walked 4 houses down just to stand beside my car and peer inside, like I was an alien life form. I had never felt so markedly different, not because of my skin color, but because of how they made me feel about it. Here, my presence felt like an anomaly, something strange enough to make an entire town pause and stare. And even sadder, the one person I hoped would stand by me was slowly becoming part of that strange picture. My fiancé began disappearing. Not literally, but emotionally, in his quiet retreat. Every time we went to the supermarket, he suggested we split up and meet at the checkout. At first, I thought it was to save time, but then it happened at Winners, at the antique shop, always the same. Once I was mid-conversation when I realized I was talking to myself. He had slipped away without saying a word. I asked him. He laughed and said, "I told you I went to the bathroom." But I knew I didn't hear him say that. Not because I'm forgetful. I'm a mother, a fiancé, I pay attention. He didn't say anything. He just vanished, usually when the stares started. Maybe the most painful thing wasn't the gaze of strangers, but the avoidance in the eyes of the man I love. I noticed how he'd step back a few feet if someone local walked into the store. How he no longer held my hand, no longer wrapped his arm around my back like he used to. All the little gestures that once came naturally now only appeared in the dark, behind closed doors. As if he were hiding me from the light, from the world. I began to wonder, is he ashamed of me? Because I'm Black? Or is it just this town that's made him pretend? He still said he loved me, still kissed me when no one was watching. But what kind of love needs darkness to survive? I wanted to believe him, truly. Every time he held my hand after a long silent evening, every time he gently said, "Don't overthink it," I told myself, Maybe I'm being too sensitive, but the unease inside me wouldn't rest. It lingered like smoke, invisible but suffocating. More and more, I felt like a shadow in his life. He once excitedly talked about me visiting his office, meeting his coworkers. But after the move, he suddenly said, "Wait until I'm settled." I thought it was just work stress, but he never invited me. Not once. He barely mentioned work at all, only vague things, deflecting any questions I asked about his environment or his new boss. I started paying closer attention. One evening, he said he had to meet with a fitness trainer at 6 p.m., our usual dinner time. I found it odd, but I didn't say anything. Later, when I mentioned that my trainer wanted to sync our schedules, he reacted, strangely, panicked, flustered, then quickly said, "Maybe I'll switch to Saturdays instead." It wasn't the change that raised alarms. It was the look on his face when I said I might be at that gym too. That night, at 5:45, he picked a fight with me. Out of nowhere, a petty argument erupted, seemingly out of nothing. He said he needed air and left, but he wore his date night shirt, his well-kept shoes, and his most expensive watch. He wasn't going to the gym, I'm sure of it. I texted him, asking why he dressed up like that just to cool off. He came home 5 minutes later with flowers, saying he went to the bar. He told me he loved me. But what kind of love begins with a fake fight and ends with a half-hearted apology? That's when a terrifying thought hit me. Was he cheating on me? Was he meeting someone he didn't want knowing I existed? And if so, why? He's engaged. He has a family. The one glaring difference between me and the women around here is my skin. And so the question began to gnaw at me. Could it be that the man I trusted is ashamed of me because I'm black? I started realizing that this distance wasn't a sudden shock. It leaked in slowly, like a roof dripping rain. First a few drops, then a flood before you even know it. I moved here full of hope, and now 3 weeks later, I'm alone inside the very relationship I once called home. We still eat dinner together, but we're no longer in the same world. He often says he's not hungry, skips meals, or just picks at his plate. I make his favorite dishes, trying to recreate some sense of normalcy, but all I get are distracted glances and polite nods. On weekends, he jokes, talks, even shows affection publicly again. But Monday to Friday, I'm no more than a hidden roommate. I tried suggesting we leave for work together since we wake up around the same time. He used to kiss me goodbye every morning. Now he gets up an hour earlier, gets ready in silence, and leaves so quietly, it's like he doesn't want to wake a stranger. I once asked, "Why are you up so early?" He just said, "I need time to focus. Time alone." But something felt wrong. Loneliness started to cling to me like frost, quiet and cold enough to numb me. He stopped telling me anything about his job. No boss's name, no coworker stories, none of the little details he used to love sharing when we lived in the city. It's like his new life is written in code, and I've been left off the map. This feeling of exclusion doesn't come from one big betrayal. It's the small, repeated actions that start to feel cruel. Postponed plans, broken promises of "I'll take you out this weekend," unread messages left without replies. I feel like someone standing behind glass, watching him live a life that no longer includes me. I used to believe love could withstand the stares of strangers. But maybe I was wrong. Because when someone else's gaze makes him step away from me in public, what he's afraid of isn't prejudice. It's me. And now I wonder, is his shame not just about how others see us, but about something deeper he's hiding? Another identity? A secret life? A truth not meant for me? And me? Once the person he came home to, I've become the one he tries to escape. I don't know the exact moment I finally woke up. Maybe it was that night when he stood at the door in his favorite shirt, polished shoes, shiny watch. None of it meant for the gym, like he claimed. But what hit me the hardest